I'd like to talk a little while about negativity. Negativity in the way we interact with our children. Now, I've had two opportunities in my life where I've had the chance to observe how I interact with others on video. When I was doing my GP training, it was part of our training to actually videotape ourselves talking to patients. It was always very confronting and no one liked doing it, but it was a very useful tool because it really showed you exactly what you are actually doing when we're actually consulting. And I was astonished about how bad I was. My body language, I was slumped and I was turning away from people, and I would yawn and overtly, maybe not interested in what they had, missing cues, and something like this. And one patient in particular, I remember, I was quite confronted about that I was doing so poorly. But a lot of my colleagues were as well. It's something that I think is quite common for people to think that they're communicating with people more effectively than they actually are. The second time, years later, when my child was having autism therapy, and part of that therapeutic approach at the time was to train the parents up on communication skills so they could help out the child with autism more effectively. And once again, videotaping about how I talk to my son. And once again, I was better than I had been before, but I was still, I was talking too fast. I was interrupting. There was a lot of negative talk. So once again, we often think that we are communicating better than we actually are. So maybe you're not, maybe you are communicating well, but go and maybe do a videotape of yourself and have a look. That could be a little bit confronting. Now, when we talk to somebody, basically there are several barriers, several points at which the message, what the intended message and what is actually received, there are several barriers in that process that can get in the way. First of these is between what you're actually intending, what you're thinking in your brain or in your mind, and what actually comes out of your mouth, because they may not be the same thing. And then there is the barrier between your mouth, what you actually say, and what is actually heard by the person's ears. And then you have the barrier between what is actually heard and what their mind actually interprets that. So it's almost like a game of Chinese whispers. There are certain points where it can fall down, and so what we actually end up intending to get across is not what the person actually understands. So I talked about negativity. Well, what are some examples of negativity? I actually did a little experiment once when I was writing and researching on this area, and I went down to the local park and on a Sunday afternoon, and I just sat there and listened. And listened to the way the parents talk to their children. Now, sure, this is Sunday afternoon, everyone's a bit tired, the end of the weekend, but there was a lot of negativity. Some examples included threats. If you don't do that now, if you don't get in the car now, we're not going to the swimming pool. Orders. Stop it! Just stop it! Sarcasm. Well, that was a really clever thing to do, wasn't it? Accusations. Did you do this? Is this yours? And name calling. Oh, you little bugger. So all of these different types of negative talk were there in abundance. But the biggest, the most profound negativity came from tone. There was a woman who yelled out to her child when she tried to put her in the car, and all she said was, "I don't care." But the way she said it, the volume, it was almost a little bit vicious. So, "I don't care," sort of thing. And there were a few head snaps from other parents going, "What's going on there?" So this is how negativity can manifest, and tone is a real big one. So something I do like to ask my parents who come in to talk to me about parenting issues is, what is their negative versus positive speech? How much is negative, how much is positive, what percentage? And this is often a question that's met with a little bit, oh gee, I haven't thought about that before, and they find it a little bit confronting. They might say 50-50, they might say 80% negative, 20% positive. What we're aiming for really is the majority of our speech to be positive. So it's a little more like 80 positive and minimising the negative to 20 or less. So, so this has been referred to as a praise deficit when you have too much negative speech. So when people think of what can I do about this, well, they immediately run for whacking in more positive. You know, I'll try and be nicer more often. No, that's actually hard to do and may sound false. The better way to do it is to reduce your negative. And this is certainly something I did when I had my children, when they were small, that I would find myself going to say something negative, maybe something that I'd already told them several times before and that I really didn't need to say it anyway. They'd already had that message, they already knew that I'd find myself going, no, don't say it. You know, and just realising that if I just tried to, especially the stuff that really wasn't that important, it was stuff that could really, you know, go through to the keeper, it didn't have to be said. And that is a much more effective way of getting your negative versus positive speech balance more in line with what we want. So, how are we going to do this? We're going to reduce the negative speech. We're also going to talk about introducing positive, but I'll talk more about that later when we're talking about praise. If we don't do this, what happens? Well, it can almost be like a little bit of a cascade, depending on how long it's been going on for and how marked the negativity is. People can start out by being confused and maybe sad about the situation. You know, I thought I'd be better. You know, I thought I'd be a better parent. You know, why is Daddy always angry at me? So on both sides. And then you know, they can become angry and belligerent even from the child's point of view. You know, I don't care. I'm always in trouble anyway. I may as well do what I want. And the parent can become angry, and both parent and child then can start dropping in their self-esteem. The parent starts thinking, you know, I thought I'm pretty ordinary at this. I really am. I don't know why, but I am. And the child starts thinking, you know, I'm a believer. They're told that they're the bad boy or the naughty one. You know, they start actually believing it. And the worst beyond that is when the parent might even start getting a bit paranoid and start thinking he or she is doing it on purpose just to get under my skin. And that can be a pretty dark place. That can be not pleasant. What can we do about this? Well, the good news is if you make some adjustments, make some changes, a little change can go a long way. Just trying to reduce your negativity, trying to treat your child with more respect, and listen to what they've got to say, can really go a long way, and it's always fixable. So try not to look too much back on the past. If you have had a lot of negative interactions, you can change it and improve things. Think back on your own childhood. Think about how your parents might have spoken to you. Maybe they spoke well and with respect, maybe they didn't. But it would stay in your mind because this is important stuff and it's something that people tend to remember forever.